Okie dokie. What's up, everyone? It's Jeremy Majors here with Majors Academy Dog Training out of Green Bay, Wisconsin. And now we are live Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. And this is a show where we take all of your questions and try and answer them to the best of our ability. Remember that your questions could help others that are struggling with similar issues. So please don't be shy and ask any and all questions. You are allowed to ask more than one as well. The better the conversation, the better the flow of the show. All right. So, what's happening here at Majors Academy? We just let go of 3 of our board and trains this last month. Willie, Lucy, and Wrigley. The German Shepherd was one, Bloodhound, and Pitbull mix. And I guess all of them had a very similar theme, and it tends to be that way sometimes when you have dogs that are, well, when you just have multiple dogs. Sometimes there are similarities in their temperaments, and so the theme of the dogs that stayed with us were was their level of sensitivity was pretty tough. All right, that's pretty much what they were struggling with the most. Anxiety. Lucy was human aggressive and dog aggressive, and we ended up being able to let her play with our dogs very, very well. So I might as well go ahead and start that. I want to go through sort of the best way real quick to introduce a new dog to the pack if you have dogs that are fearful or dog aggressive. One of the best ways to do that, to incorporate a good transition, is to take your dogs on a pack walk, preferably off of your territory too. And you walk with the dogs as well. I'd maybe let the new dog drag a leash, and you guys just continue to move. No petting, and just flow. Sometimes that works really well for dogs who are nervous. It definitely helped Lucy, our dog aggressive dog. She just lit up, started playing with Oakley, and started playing with Tobias. So yeah, that was pretty cool. Our next group of dogs come in on Sunday, and we've got some good ones coming in as well. Okay, let's see. Jen asked, have you ever heard of the term flooding in dog training? If yes, what do you think of it? I have heard of it, and it's a hard question to answer, simply because it just depends on the situation and the dog. But I would say that in some circumstances it is successful. But it depends on the dog, and you obviously just have to pay attention to the dog, when you're doing stuff like that. So let's just give an example. Flooding. So if you have a human fearful dog, you may take the dog to a festival with tons of humans. And I don't know. My approach would not be that way until later, until I've got good control and we've established a good dialogue between me and the dog. I don't think I would, because you really got to watch people. Which brings up a good point. If you guys want to build a dog who, let's just talk about what a social dog is. Okay. We all know that maybe there are dogs who will be fine getting petted by every single person in the entire world. But there are some dogs that will not benefit from that. So socializing means getting your dog to, in my mind, just to be able to coexist around people. Because what happens with reactive dogs is they're anticipating people touching them all the time. And that causes their reaction. That causes their reaction because they are anticipating being touched by a stranger that they have no clue what this person is or who this person is. And so again, our some dogs just need the option not to be touched. And or yeah, just have the gifts, give them the option. If they don't have an option, then they'll tend to want to push people away. So in regards to flooding and the example that I said, I like to my training is geared towards more um getting a better understanding of who I am and sort of my expectation. Every interaction should be a certain way. Every interaction should be the dog learning who you are truly, because you're learning them as well. And if you're learning the dog on a day to day basis, then they know what they can do and what they can't do. Uh, and that's where the consistency comes in. The consistency truly is the dog learning who you are and what you allow to happen or not happen. So that's where the training comes in. And then you can take the dog into those deep water situations, so to speak. So as far as the flooding goes, I'm not too into it. Okay, we got a question on YouTube. My dog has a problem with humping thing. My dog has a problem with humping thing. Uh, Humping you or humping other dogs? Or just humping everything? Let me know. Because if the dog is, if the dog is humping you, then that's sort of a little bit of disrespect, I would say. And you can tell the dog no. You can expect that the dog can learn not to hump. Um, if it's humping dogs, you can also help the dog learn that that's not okay. But if you don't mind, give me some more specifics and I can help you out even further. All right. So I should say this because I think I want to help people understand. Because a lot of people call me and the first thing they'll say is that uh, my dog was abused, mistreated, or must have been abused and mistreated. Okay, so given that given that fact or not, if you've had your dog for more than, I would even say, just a year, maybe even 7, 8 months, or here's the deal: when you are ready for your dog to move forward from uh, when you are actually when the dog is ready for you to push the dog past some of those insecurities, and you can kind of put that abusive past to the side. When does that, when does that occur? That's a common thing that I deal with people and their dogs. When is it okay to sort of get our dogs to say, or get our dogs to realize that, okay, this enough is enough. um let's work past this issue, as opposed to allowing the dog's past to be an excuse for us not to sort of push them in certain areas. For example, there was a dog that's scared to walk on linoleum. Um, and the owner was expressing that, oh, the dog must have been uh, mistreated on linoleum floor. I'm not kidding, not making this up. Um, and so, okay, so what usually ask people is, how long have you had the dog? If you've had the dog for over a year and the dog is showing bratty behavior, right, or the dog seems like it's being a big baby, then you know the dog is comfortable enough to act out. So that means it's comfortable enough with you and comfortable enough to misbehave. Therefore, the dog can be pushed uh, past some of its insecurities. You know what I'm saying? Um, Especially if it's been, more than a year. You know, the dog's issues. You don't want to hold the dog back from taking that next step because of where it came from. Dogs are resilient. Rescue dogs are, yes, they do maybe have some baggage, but unless I hear something out of the ordinary, which is very rare for me, I will tell the owner that, the issues that you expressed, um, dogs that come from a breeder, or people who have bought their dog from a breeder and are perfectly raised in a perfect home, still show those same issues. And so sometimes, again, that rescue factor can be a hurdle for a lot of people to get over when it comes to certain issues, anxiety and fear. So don't be afraid to take the next step with your dog, whatever that may be. Don't be afraid to push your dog past its comfort zone, especially if you've given the dog enough time to be comfortable with you and the situation to where the dog starts to act out. All right. Okay. All right. Next question. Okay. This question is for Kathy. I have an almost 3-year-old golden retriever who is great with other dogs most of the time. But sometimes, out of the blue, he goes after another dog aggressively. There's no rhyme or reason that I can tell. Sometimes he's on leash, sometimes not. Sometimes the other dog is on leash, and sometimes not. I'm in training with him and was told he is so unpredictable he won't be allowed to pass his CGC exam. I'm so disappointed because I think he'd be a great therapy dog. So my question is, how can I help my dog get over this behavior? Um, well, to be completely honest and straight up, I doubt that your dog been has met the correct consequence in order for your dog to rethink its actions. Okay, your dog can choose other behaviors other than engaging in aggressive behavior. If it's being picky with who the dog is being aggressive with, then that sort of speaks towards him feeling entitled to do so. It's not like the dog is aggressive with all dogs, because if that was the case, then we could take a different approach. We could maybe say, all right, maybe the dog needs more time, uh, with good balanced dogs, right? So that would speak of more on a fear side. But if he's being picky with who he gets along with, then he just is kind of has the mindset of, all right, well, when I feel like fighting, I'm just going to fight. When I feel uncomfortable, I'm just going to deal with it aggressively, and that should be punished because that's him being sort of you know a punk. So what you'll have to kind of learn how to do is, again, give the dog the proper consequence at the proper time. And the timing is, when he's thinking about it, not when he's actually doing it. That's the proper time to help him learn that he can't do that. There are, again, uh, other options besides getting aggressive. But also evaluate who you're socializing the dog with and make sure that they're being fair. they're being reasonable. If they're jumping on him, if they're humping him, if they're being just obnoxious to him, then he does have to do that. And then he's justified in his actions. And so you want to evaluate who you're socializing with and make sure that those dogs are properly socialized and respectful. Um, and if the dog is attacking dogs that are respectful, then you definitely want to give them a consequence for that. Okay. All right. That's all I got for that question. But thank you for your question, and feel free to ask another. Yeah, socialization is it's it can be a little tricky. Um, some dogs just need the right amount of time. What's cool about what we do here is we have dogs who are a little bit older, mature, and they don't need to come see and sniff the dog right away. It's not a situation where I bring a dog in the yard and my dogs come rushing up. That would be counterproductive because that's what the dog is expecting and doesn't want. And then we just take enough time to where the dog um, starts to want to engage with my dogs slowly. You know what I'm saying? And then that makes a smooth transition. So my dogs will stay away until they're interacted with by the dog that I'm working with. But it can be tricky, but it also can't be. It also can just be um, you guys, whoever is sort of monitoring them, should just sort of be on guard with them or make sure that things are fair, right? You don't want one dog overwhelming the other because that could start a fight. You don't want, you want to sort of give the dog some space or be able to have voice command control over your dog when you say stop or sit or take a break. Um, that should be what they're do what they should do. That's what's gonna prevent fights from happening. All right, because I do have dogs that don't like each other, but that doesn't mean that they fight. That just means they kind of avoid each other, you know. And I'm cool with that. Not every dog's gonna get along with every dog. Some dogs are gonna dislike other dogs, but it's how they think it's how they think they can deal with it. So they can learn not to fight. They can learn that fighting is not okay. Walk away instead of engaging in fights. All right. All right, guys, we're live on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. Any of you who are watching, please feel free to ask questions. Any questions. All your questions will help others who are watching and struggling with the same issues. I'd be willing to bet your challenges, you are not alone in your challenges at all. All right. If you are, I'll tell you are. But so far, I've never had a question that someone else hasn't been struggling with the same thing. So don't be shy. Ask some questions and let's get a conversation started. So I'm going to kind of tell you what I think is the most important thing when it comes to having success, especially if you decide to train with us, board and train. Okay. So with our board and train, you do get free private lessons and or my time for the rest of the dog's life for free. I really want it to be sort of like we have a relationship, a long-term sort of relationship, because I want to make sure the dog stays on the right track. There's no better person because I've spent 3 weeks with your dog and I know the dog very well, and I know the approach that you should take. And more times than not, since the dog has a good foundation, um, once it leaves our place, I can walk you through some things over the phone, via Skype, via FaceTime, whatever it may be, So if you call me and you say, my dog's still struggling with this, all right, well, let's try and figure something out. And if that doesn't work, then we'll try and figure something else out. There's always a couple of tricks to solving those problems, and there's no one trick that works for every dog. So, um, and sometimes there aren't any tricks, and you got to come up with some tricks, or sometimes you learn new tricks. But the point is, staying in contact is probably the most important thing. Okay, I thank my clients when they reach back out. I really do. That is something that is going to be very important. It's kind of like drug addiction. When you go away, when you're addicted to drugs, you go away for rehab, and then after rehab, what do? What did they advise you to do? Especially alcoholics, they tell you to go to Alcoholics Anonymous, right? And the people who don't go usually relapse. Okay. And so that's sort of how it is with dog training. People and their environment, the dog's old environment and their owners can be their drug. And sometimes they need to spend time away from the owner and the environment to sort of actually have the ability to learn. I always tell people private lessons are very tough when it comes to fear, aggression, and insecurity and anxiety because they are in that environment. It would be very hard to rehab a drug addict in their own environment, in that old environment where they have all those triggers to relapse. And so it's the same thing. Affection, environment, and the owners can be a dog's drug. And so again, what's powerful about the board and train is they're away from that and being able to learn a little bit more about, the world, how it really works. But if they're amongst in their environment and you're trying to work a dog, you're trying to have private lessons in their environment, then it's hard to reach them 100% because they're so comfortable with acting how they act, that there's really it's really hard to get through to them. And then you know and so again, when the dog comes to us, um they're also a lot less likely to bite, which is good. So a lot of people think that, oh, my dog doesn't won't act aggressive unless it's on its territory. How are you going to fix it? And I tell people, okay, first of all, we do see the aggression. We just don't get bit, but we do see the aggression. We do see what we need to see in order to fix it. Um, the dog is less likely to do that behavior off of its territory because it is sort of second guessing himself or herself. Not very sure. Okay. And so, again, it's very safe for everyone involved. Me as a trainer, society, you know, if you were doing private lessons, once again, and you want to get a dog better with humans, and the dog doesn't know who you are, and so you're at risk. The dog, and then you have to take the dog through those insecurities. So you'll have to somehow get people or dogs, whatever it may be, and that's very dangerous because again, the dog doesn't even know you. You don't have a dialogue with the dog, so how's the dog going to take direction from you? uh so uh if a person calls me and they say that their dog has fear, anxiety issues, especially if they've bit someone, then it's board and train. Or I tell people, if it's with me or not, the dog's best bet is board and train. Private lessons are going to be, in my opinion, a waste of time. All right. If you have any questions about that or anything I just explained, feel free to ask me. Okay. Anita says, how do you rehabilitate rescue dog with food aggression? Um, okay, so when it comes to food aggression, there's two sides to food aggression, in my opinion. It depends on if the dog, again, is comfortable and has spent enough time with the people that are feeding the dog. And then you have to take into account um, what you are doing to the dog when it's being fed to provoke the insecurity. So take for example the dog is new. Excuse me. The dog is new to you. You can maybe give the dog the benefit of the doubt if it doesn't know you that it could be insecure about getting food because on a natural level, dogs, they're opportunists and they eat when there's food. And so if you try and mess with that sort of thing, then they get irritable. All right. So if you don't know the dog well, then you can give the dog the benefit of the doubt. Now, here's what I would do with that approach is um, give the dog a nice, safe place to eat. No dogs around, and put the food down and just let the dog go to town. Okay, if you know the dog, if the dog's been with you for a while and is showing food aggression, it also depends on who or what the dog is showing aggressive behavior towards. Is it other dogs or people? Um, but either way, this is kind of my approach to food aggression. I feed my dogs all in separate crates. They eat in their crate. I want that. I want their dogs to eat and then have a place to relax. I don't like moving after they they eat, especially my Great Dane, who the breed is prone to bloat, and so I feed my dogs in a separate crate because I've got two terriers too. So they're going to be adamant about their food, and again, I want them to be sort of as relaxed as possible when it comes to when they're eating. So I feed them separate, and I feed them once a day. And all I ask is that they sit and look at me before they eat. And then the other thing that I ask is if I say out or leave it, for a lot of people to say that, but means the same thing. If I say out, then they stop eating. Okay, that's the only thing that I do when it comes to food aggression. I don't pet them. I don't want to. I want to leave them alone. Um, Not to say that I can't pet them, and I don't. There's people who can do it. Fine, whatever. That's fine. But um, if you have a dog who's really food aggressive, why mess with him? Just let him eat. But okay, so if you've had the dog for a long time and you feel like he's just being a brat about it, then you can give him a consequence for it. The e-collar works really well with that because you can sort of be away from the dog and you can use low level communication with an electric collar. And so I just had to use that on a bloodhound because he was very food aggressive. He wouldn't even, let his owners go in the kitchen or someone walk by uh, and he would go off on them. And so, um, yeah, what I did was I put the food down. He obviously went for it right away. And then I used the e-collar, tapped the button, and then he jumped back and I said, sit. And he sat and looked at me and I took the food bowl away. Then I put it back down, told him to sit. He looked at me and then he can eat. That's all I want. I want him to be respectful around food. And it's tough for some dogs, especially hound dogs or working dogs or terriers, but they can have that can happen, okay? If you would like to get more specific on your situation, I can help you further, but that's sort of what my explanation is. That's sort of the gist of it. And thank you for your question. All right. So here's another little thing that just to kind of branch off on that, the subject we were talking before the question, and one of the other reasons why the board and train is very effective, because someone else gets to know that dog very, 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 very well. I do think it takes time to know a dog. I don't think it can you can know a dog in a week. They're not even themselves in a week. Think about the dog, how much the dog has changed, especially if you had a rescue dog. How much the dog have changed from week 1 to, week 15. Um, again, the benefit is I get to know your dog deeply, uh, and can give you a good diagnosis of how to proceed with your dog for the rest of its life. And so that's why the board and train is powerful. It really is. It's a very intimate thing for me as well. It's a very private and quiet place that I have, and I really want to keep it that way. And I only work with 3 dogs per month, and I really want to keep it that way as well. So, but it does take a lot of time and a lot of energy. So 3 dogs is how I know I can spend a lot of time with your dog. So, all right, folks. Once again, if you're just joining us, we are live on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. Feel free to ask any questions, or if you have a topic that you would like me to just talk about, go ahead and type it in. We are here every Wednesday, same time at 7 p.m. We really want, again, our old clients, our past clients, to stay engaged. And this is one of the ways that we can give them the opportunity to continue to learn. It is a learning journey, 100%. I mean, if I think about my first dog and all the ways that I screwed that dog up, um, I it helps me develop sort of empathy for clients who are first time dog owners. Um, Dog ownership is a journey. Uh, Sometimes people need that extra help in order to get to where they want to get to with their dog. Cheers, Georgia. I appreciate it. Um, so yeah, it is a journey for everyone. I'm raising my son, and it is also a journey for me. Let me dive into that because it's definitely relatable. Not specifically to dogs, but it is relatable. Okay. Um, the more that I am learning about being a father, I think it's actually making me a better trainer too. Um, yes, I do. I will be sending that to you with a week left of the board and train. So expect an email with plenty of good resources um, moving forward, and videos on everything that we teach the dog with a week left of your board and train. So thanks for that question. Um, but back to what I was saying. Um, I I really want people to again have the opportunity to uh, you know stay on track. Um, I really want people to uh, the, you know have an outlet to where um, if you're having trouble with your dog, struggling still, to be able to just listen, because again, it is a learning journey. So I'll go into it with my son. Okay, this is where I develop empathy for all parents, and it's helped me develop more empathy with dogs and and their and their owners. Okay, you can't necessarily be told what to do on an emotional level with your son, and and I could say with dogs as well. You have to be able to feel why you should be doing the things people are telling you to do. Because there's such an emotional attachment to, you know, there's such an emotional attachment to my son. And I can catch myself saying, should I be doing this? You know, or should I allow this to continue? And you know what? It's definitely a struggle for sure. Again, I think people have to come to that point of feeling why they should do what people suggest, because common knowledge is um is pretty, you know, amongst people and dogs and children and childhood and all that good stuff. There's people that can have good knowledge on what to do. Well, let's just give an example. Some people have a very hard time keeping their dog off their bed. Um, and I don't recommend them keeping their dog off their bed unless the dog is, you know, being a terror in other areas. Because we have to we have to stop assuming, or we have to cut down on the behaviors that the dog can assume it can just do. That's why the bed thing is not recommended for in some situations for me. Okay, and your dog trainer should be able to tell you that. Um, I think that's a big problem as well. Some dog trainers they know what to do or they know what to say, but they don't know how to explain why they should be telling people that. But again, going back, the owner has to really feel why it should keep the dog off the bed, not just be told, keep your dog off the bed. And some people are fine with just saying, all right, dog's out, period. And okay. But for some people, it's not. And you shouldn't be cold to them and just say, get the dog the hell out of the bed. Now, if the dog is growling at you in the bed or biting your husband or biting the wife, then that's when I would say, get the dog the hell off the bed. You know what I mean? Then I'm okay with that. But something along those lines. Again, people have to emotionally reach the point of saying, all right, enough is enough. And it takes time for that, period. There's no rushing that, you know. There's got to be a point where they reach that, and then they can really be consistent. Because if you tell them what to do, okay, they may try it, but it's not as reliable on a consistent level. Once they've reached that point of enough is enough, then that's when the consistency comes. And you can't coach them to that. You can suggest it and kind of wait until they reach that point. But like I said, dog training and learning the how to, you know, shape that relationship to where it's convenient for you and the dog, and you both are getting something out of the relationship and are both happy with each other. Those things take time, because not every dog is the same either. I get a lot of calls and they compare their dog to the dog of the past, and it's like, well, that's not their dog. Your childhood dog is not the dog of today. It's so different nowadays. Dogs have so much more, or so much less freedom, I should say, than maybe growing up. So it's a journey. It is. I'm going through that with my child at the moment. So again, it just makes me more of an empathetic trainer, and I appreciate that. All right, guys, we just got a few more people joining in. We are live here on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Please feel free to ask questions, as many as you like, if you have any, ma'am. And please believe that your questions will help others that will be watching or will watch in the future. So feel free to ask as many questions as you like. Yeah, that's that. So again, we're here live every Wednesday, and we're gonna try and get it to move back to Thursday. Everyone maybe seemed to do a little better when I was working these on Thursday, and some work schedules have changed, and so that's kind of kept us from doing our Thirsty Thursdays, is what I used to call it. But I'm trying to get it back to where we can go on Thursday, and yeah, Thursdays are a little bit better. So, all right, guys. Well, let's check our social media quick here. Hey, guys. Like I said, we'll be here next Wednesday again. If you are watching this show after 7:40 p.m. on Wednesday, we are no longer live, and so you can go ahead and ask a question, and I'll just have to type it. I won't be able to speak it to you. I'll just type it in, which is fine. But please, if you like this video at all, and you're watching, please give me a like, a thumbs up, or subscribe to our YouTube channel. I would really appreciate that. And we'll see you guys next week. I appreciate all your questions. And yeah, be good with your dog. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Oops.